welcome Mark Levin.
Well, that was beautiful. It's very emotional. I want to thank you all for having me here. I want to thank the Adelsons for everything that they have done in two countries. Patriots in two countries. And I want to thank Norm Coleman, Matt Brooks, R.J.C., fantastic organization, fantastic people. And I want to announce tonight that I'm running for president. Not really, but everybody else is, so I figure what the hell. Maybe of Bolivia, that's Now, I listened to a lot of what was said today from people mostly in Washington. People I like, smart people, good people. But I have a little different take on Tuesday. First of all, Washington had nothing to do with it. Secondly, the Republican establishment had nothing to do with it. Thirdly, the American people have had enough, and they're the ones who stood up. Ron DeSantis said it today, cultural Marxism. I hear my brother and sister Republican politicians, they keep talking about socialism. Socialism is an economic ideology. What's going on in this country is more than an economic ideology. It's a cultural war. Critical race theory has nothing to do with socialism. An open border has nothing to do with socialism. Undermining our cops has nothing to do with socialism. Undermining the military has nothing to do with socialism. You know, they like to call us white supremacists and racists. We constitutional conservatives. We patriots. Obviously, that's not us. Why the hell don't we call them what they are? They're not democratic socialists. They're not progressives. They are American Marxists. That's what they are. We're in the middle of a full-fledged culture war. And we're not winning. This is much bigger than an economic war, which we have as well. This is a societal ideology. Critical race theory, lat-crit, which you've never heard of before, which is an outgrowth of critical race theory. That's why the borders are open. Climate change, which is a degrowth movement that was founded in Europe in the 1970s by Marxists. They finally came up with a name, climate change. It was climate cooling, climate warming. The Green New Deal is the centralization of government and the bureaucracy to make determinations about how you're going to live, to attack your private property rights, to attack your intellectual and physical labor. That's what it is. Why do you think the Squad, which is about 10 Leninists, why do you think the Squad supports it? Because they want clean air? Because they want clean water? Our water and air is pretty damn clean, I'll tell you that right now. That's not why. This is a war on the American culture. Norm, you've asked a lot of guests, what's the greatest danger we face? The greatest danger we face today, and I mean this with all my heart, is the Democratic Party. That is the greatest danger we face. And I will tell you why. The Democratic Party is undermining our alliance with the State of Israel. The Democratic Party is undermining our alliance with our allies in Europe. The Democratic Party doesn't believe in secure borders. Can you tell me one nation that's ever survived without secure borders? There's not one. Ever hear the Roman Empire? That lasted 1,000 years. We're a little over 250 years. And I could go on. What happened Tuesday was a grassroots movement. Parents who have had enough. Did you see them in the school board meetings? They weren't talking about kitchen table issues. They said, keep your damn hands off my children. That's what they said. The American people are a good people. We are a red-blooded people. We've gone all over the world fighting wars for people we don't know. Black, white, red, Asian, we've gone all over the world to defend people who can't defend themselves. Look at Arlington Cemetery. Look at our military cemeteries all over the world. 18-year-olds, 19-year-olds, 21-year-olds. Don't tell me we're a racist country and a white supremacist country. And I, as a Jew, thank God I was born in the United States of America. There's not another country on the face of the earth but the Jewish state that respects and honors all faiths, including the Jewish faith, which has been kicked from one part of the world to the other and is kicked back from one part of the world to the other. This is where we thrive. More than survive, this is where we thrive. We must defend this country, and that's what RJC is all about. If we lose this, Mr. Ambassador, it's a pleasure to see you. He's a buddy of mine, actually. If we lose this country, we lose Israel too. It's that simple. The people who hate America hate Israel, and the people who hate Israel hate America. And there's a reason for that, because we are a free people. We are people of free will and self-determination. But tyranny and evil are hell, and we must be resolute to challenge them every step of the way, whether it's in our own country or whether it's overseas. And let me tell you something. I have never been more concerned about the survival of this constitutional republic, there will always be in America, than I am today. We shouldn't have to rely on one election to determine if this nation will be the same nation it was yesterday and it'll be the same nation it is tomorrow. We shouldn't have to worry if they have 51 votes in the Senate and 3 votes in the House on whether or not we're going to destroy this republic. Separation of powers, an independent judiciary, an imperial presidency, a massive bureaucracy. That's not who we are. That's not what we believe in. That's what they believe in. And this republic has to be stronger than one damn election. Mrs. Adelson, you talk about unity. 100% correct. That's what we saw on Tuesday. Those weren't just Republicans turning out in New Jersey. There's not enough Republicans to turn out in New Jersey to put in a telephone booth. The Republicans who turned out in New Jersey, and independents who turned out in New Jersey, and Democrats who turned out in New Jersey, and in blue state Virginia, and in blue state New York. They turned out in Colorado, and Kansas, and Texas. And you know what they said? America. We love America, and we're going to unite behind America. We are not Marxists or democratic socialists or whatever crap label you want to give us. We believe in this country. Our fathers have fought for this country. Our grandfathers have fought for this country, and I'll be damned if we're going to roll over and play dead and surrender to AOC and the other reprobates. And by the way, the Republican Party does not tolerate anti-Semites. There's not a single anti-Semite in the House of Representatives of the United States Senate that's a Republican. Not one. And if there was one, they'd kick their ass right out of Congress. The Democrat Party not only embraces them, they lead them. They lead them. They were going to cut off the Iron Dome, Senator, right in the middle when the Jews in Israel are trying to defend themselves against Hamas and Iran. What kind of an ally does that? What kind of an ally does that? There are no Talibs, there are no Omars, not in the Republican Party, and as far as we're concerned, there never will be. This is a movement. Washington may not be aware that this is a movement, but I talk to 14 million people a week, and I'm telling you this is a movement. New York, East Coast, West Coast, Midwest, Southeast, South. This is a movement. There's a lot of reasons we got here, but we're here. And I would say to my Republican official friends, unlike the Tea Party that you scorned, embrace this movement. Embrace this movement. It is the anti-American Marxist movement. Now, some of you might say, Marxism, Mark, what are you talking about? I didn't say it's Soviet Marxism. I didn't say it's Chinese Marxism. Critical race theory. Do you know who invented critical race theory? His name was Derek Bell. He was a law professor at Harvard University. He was a Marxist. Critical theory in which critical race theory is based. You know who invented that? A guy by the name of Herbert Marcuse. Who was he? He and a cabal of other Marxists. They were in Germany. They were Marxists. They couldn't believe that Hitler won the day. They thought the communists would win the day. They'd set up the Frankfurt Foundation or Institute. He comes to the United States. He cannot believe that the United States, the 1960s, we had these riots. There's not an uprising, the proletariat to overthrow the bourgeoisie. They hated the Industrial Revolution. Marx hated the Industrial Revolution. Why? Because it demonstrated that capitalism works, and the great middle class that was created out of the Industrial Revolution didn't turn on capitalism and overthrow the country. Those are the men and women who went to war to defend the country and to defend capitalism and defend private rights. They disproved Marx's entire theory. So this whole Green Deal stuff is a war on Industrial Revolution. This whole Green Deal stuff and climate change. Climate change. The only entity that can change climate, Hashem. I hate to tell you this. I don't care. I don't care how many electric cars we have, how many bicycles we have, how many walking paths we have. The arrogance of human beings who think they can change the climate is just beyond belief to me. Tuesday was the first battle. Everybody's analyzing it. We need to do this. It's the first battle. We need to take our schools back. We need to defeat the government unions, the public sector unions. They are in the back pocket of the Democrat Party. That's why, before the CDC puts out rules, it checks with the teachers union. Very well-known scientists and medically qualified people, apparently. But there are other areas of this society where there's a culture war. It's much more comprehensive. What about our universities and colleges, which have these tenured Marxists and American-hating eggheads teaching our children? Is there nothing we can do about that? Well, I have an idea. You've heard of this BDS movement, haven't you?
Oh, yeah.
Let's apply it to the colleges. Boycott, divest, sanction. It's time to claw some money away from these colleges until they get their act together. And there's no reason Republican legislatures and Republican governors can't do that. Because otherwise we're going to destroy ourselves. The last bastion of Soviet communism is the college campus, you know. And by the way, the rising anti-Semitism on these universities is beyond belief. It is unbelievable. And it was President Trump who signed the executive order and said, enough of that is enough. So the federal government said, no more. or we're taking your federal funds away. I don't think Biden took that one back yet, but I'm sure he's poised to. So there are other challenges we face. This whole hate America, pull down the monuments, big tech attacking free speech and all the rest. This is the Democrat Party. This is the media. This is academia. This is Hollywood. You don't believe me when I say American Marxism? When's the last time they talked about freedom? When's the last time they talked about property rights? When's the last time they talked about unalienable rights? Well, folks, those are our founding principles. They don't. They pull down statues of Frederick Douglass. They pull down statues of Abraham Lincoln. They pulled down the 54th Division of the Civil War Union in Massachusetts, the first black division in the Union fighting against slavery. It's not about the monuments. It's about tearing down America. We stand for America. It's about time the Democrat Party stands for America too. Now, I'm a capitalist, very much so. I believe very, very strongly. That takes an applause, I guess. I believe in what I call free market capitalism. You know, my heroes were Milton Friedman and Hayek and Mises and all the rest of them. And I believe in that kind of stuff, I really do. It's too bad our major corporations don't. It's too bad that the CEOs and CFOs and the COOs and the board members for most corporations don't believe in that anymore. They are gutless, they have no spine, they buckle to this movement that will devour them in 2 minutes if it has to, through taxation and regulation and so forth. The left shows up at board meetings, at shareholder meetings. They buy shares and they show up. And they do what they always do. Yak, yak, attack, attack, make demands. Where are we? How many of you have shares in corporations around this country? Raise your hand. How many of you have pensions? Raise your hand. Why are they showing up at shareholder meetings and we're not showing up at shareholder meetings? They're going to shareholder meetings to push their ideology. We should go to shareholder meetings and say, hey, we invested in this company. We expect you to focus on profit, not Marxism, not socialism, or whatever other ism you want to call it. They need to hear from us. Anybody know a single Marxist country on the face of the earth now or in the past that was receptive to Jews? Can you name one? Marxism is about atheism. Look what's going on in China. Every single religious group is being eliminated. Eliminated. Look what goes on in the Middle East. Muslim killing Muslim. Muslim killing Muslim. With Christians and Jews trying to separate them, pretty much, going to war to defend one side or another. But look at Marxism. Look at Marx. These are Jew haters. These are Jew haters. Do you wonder why the most radical elements of the Democrat Party, listen to me, it's true. In many ways, this smells like the early 1930s to me. I'm being perfectly honest with you. For the Democrat Party to tolerate people to go on the House floor and make these anti-Semitic statements, to go in the media repeatedly and make anti-Semitic statements, the lowest form of anti-Semitic statements, the only ethnic group or religious group that they can say it about, us, the Jews, for the Democrat Party to tolerate that, what does that tell you? That is shocking. For the media to tolerate it. In fact, to come to the defense of Tlaib and Omar. What does that tell you? That's shocking. For over 50% of the hate crimes to occur in this country against Jews, we're a tiny little population, against Jews. What does that tell you? And so I'm more than happy to come up here and talk about Tuesday and, kitchen table issues and so forth. But we need to be on our toes. You saw the riotous activity in New York. When Palestinians attacked Orthodox Jews, you saw it and I saw it. You saw in LA when the riots were taking place 2 summers ago with the swastikas on the Jewish synagogues? You saw it, and I saw it. Did the nation rise up? No, the nation didn't rise up. Was there widespread condemnation? No, there wasn't widespread condemnation. Was there a single Democrat who went to the floor of the United States Senate, Senator Lindsey Graham, and condemned it, including the Democrat majority leader? No. No. That should worry you a lot. And the Iran deal. The Iran deal, do you know how much time we've spent on this issue? This is a mortal enemy run by a bunch of psychopaths that are trying to get nuclear missiles to hit Los Angeles. To hit Los Angeles. They're not getting, as Netanyahu says, ICBMs. They don't need ICBMs to hit Tel Aviv. They need ICBMs to hit us. What in the world? The Democrats give them $150 billion and another couple billions on the airport tarmac? And all the Biden administration is begging them to come back and negotiate? Negotiate? Donald Trump was choking the hell out of this regime. They were suffering. They were suffering. What is there to negotiate? They need to go, and we need to stay. That's pretty much it as far as I'm concerned. I don't know why he invited me, but here I am. You know. One other thing I would like to address: mandates. I was vaccinated, and I got the booster. Went to Costco, got my hot dog, and then got the booster. It's $1.53 for the last 10 years, a hot dog and a soda. And I go in there, and I got my shots at the same time. Now, why did I get vaccinated? So if Ernie Grabotsky next to me isn't vaccinated, I'm protected. Why would I get vaccinated to protect me against the guy who's vaccinated? The whole point of a vaccination is to protect me, right? And I encourage people to go get vaccinated or talk to your doctor. Don't watch the TV doctors and the hosts. What the hell do they know? They know as much as Fauci. So ask your own doctor. Talk to your doctor like you always would, you know. Dentist for the teeth, doctor for the virus. So what's this great debate? Mandates. You notice who the mandates are aimed at? Cops, firefighters, emergency personnel. Now that's been tolerated. People are being fired left and right. First responders, who we used to honor, 9/11 and so forth. People who put food on our grocery shelves, who we used to honor, they get kicked out too. Truckers, 37% of them haven't been vaccinated. We're going to take them off the roads? Are these people insane? Yes, they are. And so then, now what? Corporations. It's an emergency. Unless, of course, you have under 100, then it's not an emergency. Unless, of course, you're an illegal alien, then it's not an emergency. Unless, of course, you know, there are things that play here. The Equal Protection Clause of the Constitution, 2 human beings treated differently for no reason whatsoever. That's not going to hold up. The powers of the states on safety and health and so forth, that belongs to the states. That's why the federal government, never before in our history, has mandated vaccines. States mandate vaccines. The federal government is not free to. You look at the statute, OSHA. When was OSHA put in charge of vaccines? You ever been to OSHA, by the way? You don't want those people in charge of vaccines. You ever walk through our bureaucracy at all? I spent a lot of time there during the Reagan years. You don't want those people in charge of anything, let alone vaccines. If there's going to be somebody in charge of vaccines, it's HHS. But notice they didn't do anything. Well, the Fifth Circuit Court of Appeals today unanimously said, wait a minute, injunction. Very serious arguments have been made. Department of Justice, you have until Monday to tell us why this is constitutional and allowed at all. Now, why is this important? Because, ladies and gentlemen, the way I see it, they're trying to weed out of this society with mandates for specific people, specific groups, specific and so forth, people who stand up to authoritarianism. The police have been undermined now for 2 years. First by Black Lives Matter and Antifa, these Marxist organizations who are extraordinarily violent and Jew haters. And then by the governors in certain states, and then by the federal government. The reason they trash Ron DeSantis relentlessly is because this is a man who understands science, medicine, and freedom. And you can support vaccines without supporting tyranny. I support vaccines, but I oppose tyranny. And now his state is the #1 state in terms of the reduction of the coronavirus, hospitalizations, and deaths. And so where's Dr. Fauci talking about Florida? People talk with their feet. New York's being depopulated, California's being depopulated, New Jersey's being depopulated, Illinois is being depopulated, all these heavy blue states are being depopulated. So these people are going into red states. Why do you think this Congress and this president want to nationalize so much? They want to nationalize the vote to wipe out the red states so they can't have their own voting systems anymore. They want to nationalize healthcare. They want to nationalize everything to destroy the federalist system, turn us into France. There's no point in having a federalist system if all these decisions are centralized and made by Washington, D.C. Here's the thing I've never understood. Everybody hates politicians except for Lindsey Graham. Everybody hates politicians except for Zeldin, who's sitting over here somewhere, and others, right? Then why do we confer them with so much power? Where do they get all this genius from, this expertise where they can run healthcare, they can run freighters, they can run trucks, they can run fossil fuels, they can run this? AOC was a bartender. And I have nothing against bartenders, but I understand she poured pretty crappy drinks. So, and then we talk about the parents finally, as I ramble through here, and the children. What kind of country are we going to leave our children? We're going to leave them destitute? Because that's where we're headed. Destitute. People say, well, we always deficit spend and nothing's happened yet. It doesn't happen in increments. It happens all at once. When you can't pay the interest on the debt, where they can keep printing it, where the value of your money, your currency is devalued, and then you destroy your society, then it's the rule of the jungle, and it gets ugly. Look at Venezuela, look at the Weimar Republic, look at Zimbabwe. How many more human experiments do we need with this Marxism, socialism? How many more human experiments do we need? What are we going to do to our children? We're plundering them. We're plundering them. We don't even believe in assimilation anymore. The borders are wide open. You've got teachers and professors teaching children to hate their country rather than assimilate and support it. If the next generation hates America, there is no America. It's really quite that simple. We're very self-destructive in this respect, or they are, not us. It's very, very important. What are we doing with these entitlements? We don't ever talk about Medicare and Social Security. They're trustees. Medicare is going broke in 2 to 4 years. Did you know that? That's what the trustees said. It's going broke in 2 to 4 years. You know what the Democrats are proposing? Lower the age to 60. Dental care, eye care, whatever care you want, shoes, glasses, I don't know. And that's their proposal. Well, who's going to pay for all this? Your children and your grandchildren and generations yet born and wealth yet created. We don't even talk about that. We're going to create, free. I don't even know what the hell it is anymore. Free family leave. Well, what does that mean? If you have a child, that's your responsibility. It's not my responsibility. Why am I, it's a funny thing. My grandmother, who got married at a very young age and had 2 kids, and her husband left her, She opened a bar. She'd never hire AOC, by the way, that I can tell you. She opened a bar. She was a mother. She had a business. Since when did Americans get so weak? It's the most amazing thing I've ever seen. My father was born dirt poor. He had 3 younger sisters. His parents were dirt poor. His parents were first immigrants from Russia into the United States, and they loved the United States. Why? Because they escaped the pogroms from Russia. All they wanted was an opportunity. They didn't want anything else. What did my father do? 10 years old, after school, he walked a mile down the street and worked at the cigar factory till 2 in the morning, working right next to his mother. Today, we don't do those things. We have free family leave, free child leave, free college for 2 years, free this, free that. Do you know why the communist Chinese are salivating? They think we're weak. Are we weak? Are we? I think we're getting weaker, aren't we? The men and women in the military aren't weak. Their generals are weak. Now let's look at immigration. You can't have open borders like this with people pouring in, MS-13. Do you know why the Trump administration separated little kids from adults? Does anybody know why? Because they didn't know if those adults were their parents or not. They could have been sex trafficking. They've been using these kids as targets, these gangs down there, from day one. So they had to separate them. They don't walk in with papers and say, "Hi, I'm the mama." And you have to figure this stuff out. And so now we're going to pay $450,000 a person because they were trying to protect these kids, not put them in cages and treat them like animals. That's what they were doing. So why is the border open? Do you know the President of the United States is violating immigration statutes today? He's violating federal law today. And those people aren't being tested for the coronavirus and so forth. Once again, you have open borders, and people come in, whoever want to come in, and you're not assimilating, and you expand the welfare state, that's how you destroy a country. Just like that. Don't we wish China would do that? I think so. The environment. What about it? What about the environment? We have the most advanced technological society on the face of the earth. We have companies that are actually, most of them, responsibly trying to deal with water and trying to deal with air. We have the cleanest water and air in the industrialized world. China, India, and Russia do not. We're part of this Paris thing, and they're not. Does that make sense to anybody else? This is called primitive throwback and regression. This is an attack. Let me put it to you this way. What is technology about? This. It's the human mind's ability to advance, to figure things out, to take natural materials, to build on top of what other people have invented, come up with new medicines, new devices, new things, and so forth to make life better, to prolong life, and so forth and so on. If you believe in this degrowth movement, if you believe the government should control basically the levers of the economy, you're trying to control the ability of people to invent, to create, to establish, because they're going to be spending most of their time trying to deal with red tape, the bureaucracy, how to pay the taxes and so forth. This is how you destroy a vibrant nation. This is how you destroy an economic system. And then finally, national security. Lindsay's 100% right. Lee Zeldin, Congressman, where's Mike? Is he here somewhere? They're exactly right. What we did in Afghanistan, we're going to live with that mistake for the next 100 years. Every damn one of our enemies watched this. Every single one of our enemies watched this. It was the most provocative thing any so-called commander-in-chief could have done. Any. No Democrat, no Republican before this man had ever done anything like this. This is worse than Neville Chamberlain. I don't mean the size of it with Hitler and so forth. He really thought, I had peace in my time, peace in my... We know those people struck us before. They struck us on 9/11. From that exact territory. with the support and protection of the Taliban. We were slammed in New York City, in central Pennsylvania, at the Pentagon like never before. We just gave them their whole country back and $85 billion of the most advanced weaponry on the face of the earth. And there's 500 American citizens over there, and God knows how many, tens of thousands of patriotic Afghans who fought right next to us. And do not believe the lie that those people wouldn't fight. They lost 60,000 of them in 7 years. That sounds like to me they fought. They didn't get shot in the back. They got shot trying to defend their country as best they could. And I'll tell you something else. If you take the American air power out, you take the American intelligence out, and you take the American military out, and then you say, why aren't you fighting? They can't fight when you take everything they have away from them. Two countries right now, I'd be worried. You'll disagree with me. Two countries, Taiwan and Israel. Because I do not believe the United States has Taiwan's back, and I don't believe that Biden has Israel's back. Otherwise, why are you playing footsie with the Islamo regime in Tehran? You know they broke all the rules. You know they're speeding ahead with their nuclear program. You know you can't stop them with a negotiation. It's not even rational. You heard Ron this morning, he's exactly correct. You saw the Democrats. We have Democrats rooting for the enemy. We have Democrats rooting for Hamas. We have a huge problem in this country. And so I'll close by saying our greatest threat, and I mean it, is the Democrat Party. I want to thank all of you. I'm not Dr. Darkness. I'm just trying to tell you the truth from where I look. Because I think the American people, when they know the truth, are roused, are galvanized, will rally. The American people will rally to their own defense, to their own liberty, to their own children, to their own families. The American people will do it. That is what you saw on Tuesday. That is what you saw on Tuesday. And I would encourage Republicans, and the RJC, you folks tell them, embrace this movement. Let it lead you, rather than trying to smother it and lead it. These are the people. They rose up in the Reagan Revolution. They rose up in the Tea Party Revolution. They rose up in the Trump Revolution. Now we're rising up in another movement to save this country. It wasn't the establishment. It's the people in the neighborhoods walking their dogs, talking to each other. It is a tremendous honor, I want you to know. I'll tell you a little story, Miriam. About 15 years ago, a buddy of mine slipped into this hotel. His name was Hannity. And we checked into the hotel. We decided to have a long weekend. I taught him how to play blackjack. I lost a couple grand. He won like 15. Then he starts handing me chips like I'm his wife. I said, nah, I don't want your chips. Anyway, so we get a call. It's your husband. And he says, whatever you want, I want you to be very comfortable in this hotel. And we got to meet him. I'd never met him before. We took care of ourselves, but he was the nicest man, down-to-earth man. If you had bumped into him on the street, you'd have no idea who he was. Just a kind, decent man who came from nothing, so he understood nothing. I want to thank you and him. As I said before you came out here, it's one thing to be a patriot in one country. It's a great thing to be patriots in two countries. It's absolutely fantastic. And Felix, by the way, hello to you too. God bless you all. Thank you.
Thank you.